What's up guys, welcome back to another video. In this one I wanted to talk about this new NGTY or No Gravity. It's an abbreviation. I'm not sure how he wants me to pronounce this name. But so Brent's new track is out now. It's called All Night. It's featuring Cali Road, some future house music. And yeah, I just kind of wanted to briefly touch on how I mastered it. Now originally you can see there's all these stems because he sent me the stamps as well, but he ended up liking his own mix better, which is, you know, it's always cool. Like even I feel like sometimes when I send out my tracks to be mastered by another mastering engineer or mixed by another mixing engineer, like I end up not really liking those versions in some cases. So it's just what it is. So in the end, he just instead asked me to put my mastering chain that I had on this mix that I did. And of course I had to adjust it up slightly for his mix to accommodate it a little bit better and to get the best results possible. I just have kind of a few plugins with kind of a few adjustments here because overall his mix was pretty good. There's not really all that many things that I would do differently. Yeah, so let's start with probably the drop is the most important point of this track, which we should be talking about, because most of the changes don't really have that significant effect on the breakdowns, maybe with the exception of like this like mid-range side reducement kind of thing. But yeah, it's mostly gonna be best to like demonstrate what I did on the drop. So I have my good old friend, this massive passive emulation plugin from UAD. This is my choice of plugin in most cases on the master bus if I want to add to the high end, because what I kind of feel that this is the most gentle solution, or this has the least digital sound whenever I'm cranking this high end boost. So yeah, let's listen a before and after. 'Cause I wanna love you all night. I wanna be in your head. When you lie next to someone else, will you think of me instead? Do you remember my touch? So you remember my touch? So yeah, this is not night and day difference by any means. This is probably roughly 2 dB of gain, and these are all set to boost. Like the way this EQ works is you can set it to cut or boost, and so this is a passive EQ emulation. So the reason you're using a passive EQ emulation is because you kind of want to boost the signal, because that's where like the passive EQ, like the way passive EQs are working is that if you're boosting a frequency range, what you're really doing is that you're reducing everything else and pushing up the volume, so you're getting more of the transistor noise, and like that's the whole point of using a passive EQ for its sound, as an emulation, you know, because in the digital realm, like this wouldn't really make any sense when you can just, you know, basically program a perfect digital EQ. It's so yeah, I mostly use this EQ for boosting in general. Sometimes I cut with it, but it's this EQ is best utilized for boosting. Like this is the whole point. So I have a little bit of high-end boost in here because I found that you know, with this unit really it's just the high end is just miles ahead of every other plugin EQ that I've ever used. And the next step was to use this dynamic EQ. I can like really dial into the spots that I want to fix. In most cases, this is going to be the low end. I could have chosen a multi-band compressor, but again, that just has a different sound than this one, so I opted for this one. This unit, the Ozone Dynamic EQ, I just plain and simply like the sound of it better. It just somehow feels more transparent to me, which I just wanted to be kind of transparent because Brent already liked his mix, so there just wasn't a huge reason for me to like over colorize this one if I didn't have to. So let's listen to a before and after. Again, this is not going to be like, especially like dynamic EQs are very subtle, but the main reason I'm using a dynamic EQ instead of a normal one is because when you have a limiter setup, and especially like I'm in the end, you'll see I'm kind of driving it relatively aggressively. These pumps will matter a lot because this is going to free up a bunch of space from the limiter, and instead of distorting, it's going to just sound kind of, again, just transparent and natural. And so this is how I can gain a lot of loudness without actually sacrificing the audio, like the value itself, like how it sounds, because this one has an attack time, so it's not an instant change. Like if I draw a normal EQ curve, like for example, like this one, if I just draw this is instant. This has no attack, no release. It's not moving. Like but like here, these are moving, so everything is there. But once the unit feels that an adjustment has to be made, because I set up the threshold and the attack times and whatnot, like that way, it just gets out of the way, and this is going to have the end limiter doing its job better. So I mean, hope this makes sense. So let's just listen to a before and after.
'Cause I wanna love you all night. I wanna be in your head. When you lie next to someone else, will you think of me instead? Do you remember my touch? Do you remember my touch? 'Cause
So again, super subtle, but yeah, it really just makes a difference once there's a limiter. The next step was to add a little bit of width to the track. It wasn't super extremely necessary to do this, but I just felt that it was a little bit too centered, the whole track. And yeah, basically I can't really say anything else about this one, because this is really just a little bit of widening of the whole spectrum. I just used 2 bands because for one band adjustment and using a single band wouldn't have been as great, because I felt that the high end needs a little bit more push than the low end, but at the same time I wanted to like push the low end too, but not as much. So yeah, this is how it ended up.
'cause I wanna love you all night. I wanna be in your head. When you lie next.
Now, just for the sake of listening to this, you can hear kind of like how much the track is in the middle, you know, overall.
'Cause I wanna love you all night. I wanna be in your head. When you lie next to someone else, will you think of me instead? Do you?
So of course, even it wasn't in its original state, it wasn't even close to like how the mono sounded. But at the same time, you know, I felt that this widening was kind of necessary to make sure that it works best. But then this widening created a slight little problem, what I found here in this breakdown part.
Stay awake so you can dream about how our lips could join in a kaleidoscope.
So again, wasn't a huge adjustment that I had to make. It wasn't a huge issue that needed to be taken care of, but it's a solid 1 decibel of dynamic reduction on the sides of the signal, because I just felt that on these
Do you stay awake so you can dream about how our lips could?
these pad-like elements, which had a little bit of width. These were like overflowing a little bit, so I did not want it to let that happen, basically. So yeah, and on the high end, this was mostly for the vocals.
How our lips could join in a kaleidoscope of us. Yeah, could you really let her help me heal?
And of course, the biggest difference, what's happened was the end limiter on the track, which I'm in most cases I'm using the Ozone 8 maximizer. I sometimes use the L2 as well. These are both very reliable. I just prefer the sound of this Ozone 8, because if I set it to this fourth intelligent release control, I think is what it stands for, then this also adds another dynamic EQ before this whole limiting process would take place, and it's just going to create an even more transparent result, which I kind of like. And what I found is also, like, this is pretty funny, is if I just enable this transient emphasis but leave it on 0, in most cases that's what gives me the sound I'm looking for. Before I really played around with all these numbers, even over all the way up and middle, and then, you know, just reducing and reducing. But now what I found is that there's a difference in the sound if I just have it disabled or have it enabled at 0. Maybe it's a takeaway for you as well if you use the same plugin. Instead of doing it like this, I'm just gonna like slightly reduce the volume so you can kind of hear what this is doing.
'Cause I wanna love you all night. I wanna be in your head. When you lie next to someone else, will you think of me instead? Do you remember my touch? Do you remember my touch? I wanna love you all night. I wanna be in your head. I wanna love you all night. I wanna be in your head.
So there's a little bit it's a little bit pushing back the kick drum, which is probably the most noticeable thing here. But overall, it's very transparent, and this is why I just love this unit, because even the Pro L2 is as reliable as it is, and it has this transparent function, which is like, it's close, but it's not in most cases, I would say it's not as good as this one. So if I want to keep things clean, then this is what I want. If I don't mind a little bit of color, then I will definitely go for the L2, because if I feel that something needs a little bit more life, then I guess this might be a better solution for as an end limiter. Sometimes I even use the two in a combination. Like it's really just it very much depends on the track. You know, this is the whole takeaway. So without anything. So you can kind of hear how much brighter it got, but the actual adjustments are not a lot. Like you can see, this is not a lot of adjustment, but just so the track has gotten brighter without the sharpness of it. Like this is the whole goal of like using either a dynamic EQ or like something which creates this sizzling high end, which is not it's just not sharp, you know. Like and this is the main point that I want to like get across here, is that, you know, sometimes with these very little changes you can change a lot, and you can change for the better, or like you can even change it for the worst, but that's generally not a great idea if you want to keep your clients in the future. So yeah, as I've said in the beginning, these are not a lot of plugins. So again, just to like summarize this, I use this EQ because of the high end, how the high end sounds on this unit. I use this dynamic EQ because I know that if I shape the low end, and in the case of this track, the high end as well, it's just going to have an even more transparent end result, because of the limiter won't be distorting or pumping, and it's just going to like really do what I want to do, which is just be as transparent as possible and be loud at the same time. This is, you know, my favorite tool to achieve this. Then I have an imager, just, you know, to, especially in the drop, to like make sure that those the bass is sounding wide enough, and I'm a little bit pushing the brightness even, I would say, you know, a little bit more to the sides, enhancing the brightness. That's a better word probably. And in the breakdowns, this is basically only for the breakdowns here, to like get rid a little bit of those side information in this range, so that that pad sound gets out of the way of the vocals, so there's no interference in the vocals. Yeah, and then in the end, I have this maximizer. If I push the threshold too low, then it's obviously will start to get distorted. If I leave it too high, it's not gonna be loud enough. So it's always a balancing act, and I found that it was best around -8 dBs or something like this range for this track. And yeah, this is it. Hope you enjoyed this video, and hopefully you learned something today. Thanks for watching. See you the next time.